Alhambra is the everlasting symbol of Islamic presence and influence on Spain. Built by Muhammad al-Hammal, Muhammad the Redder, it was named Alhambra, the Red One, after its red tinted walls. It was designed to bring the Islamic perception of heaven to earth through its use of gardens, greenery, and the most exquisite examples of Islamic architecture with hints of classical and medieval influence. It was originally a small Roman fortress on the Sabika hill, overlooking the city of Granada. Al-Hammal expanded it into a multi-purpose structure containing a royal palace, official residence quarters, and a miniature walled city open to the public. Its grandeur and opulence was unlike anything seen before in Islamic Spain. It dwarfed even the greatest mosques and palaces of the time. The Nasrid dynasty showed its citizens how prosperous and magnificent the emirate was. In contemporary times, in a Catholic, Western-oriented Spain, Alhambra represents the last vessel of Islamic Spain. Even chronologically speaking, Granada and the fortress that was the last foothold of the Arab rulers in Spain before their expulsion in 1942. The Alhambra was first intended by the Sultan to be a military fortress, then later became a royal residence complete with all the appropriate amenities, lavish gardens, geometric mosaics, and elaborate fountains. It was further expanded later to include housing for palace workers and government officials. It was the seat of government, royal palace, and formidable fortress, all in one. Certain gardens were open to the public to give an image of a prosperous and successful sultanate at a time of declining Arab presence in Spain. If you visit the Alhambra today, it will take you 2.5 hours to complete the tour of the 3.5 long kilometer complex. For the antiquated, you might be able to tell the numerous cultural influences on the palace's design. However, it retains an unmistakable oriental look. The arches and geometric pieces are very reminiscent of other buildings further east, while the roof tiles are clearly derived from Western design. The tone of Alhambra is bold but ambivalent. It's so clearly Islamic but also not. The Sultans wanted a cultural monument that both distinguished the place from the and incorporated it with the surrounding Christian buildings of Granada. Despite centuries of Arabization, approximately half of the city's population remained devout Catholics. The Myrtle is one of the most iconic and renowned parts of the Alhambra. It's a long courtyard with a pool taking up most of the space and then arched entrances on either side. Here we see an example of the Arabs' incorporation of water in their architecture. The reflection provided by the pool isn't purely aesthetic. It also has a deep symbolic meaning, showing the eternal, infinite nature of God. The arches pictured behind are very reminiscent of Islamic architecture and take inspiration from Gothic and Roman pillars as well. Islamic art uses the image of heaven in every aspect. Open courtyards are common in all historic buildings. The geometric floral patterns above the arches represent patterns occurring in nature. Heaven is indeed infinite and natural, an aspect beautifully seen in Alhambra. The Hall of the Ambassadors is directly adjacent to the Myrtle, past the arches. It's a tall building that looks over the city under the hill on the edge of the palace walls. The first thing you notice when you enter is the etched calligraphy and floral patterns in the walls. The room is maximalist in design. No inch of wall or roof or even window is left untouched by carvings. Each pattern and shape depicted stands out yet blends in at the same time. There is both unity and variety in the patterns. In Islam, depicting human figures is considered idol worship, and angels don't enter a home in which human figures are depicted. Instead, we see Arabic calligraphy from the Quran, which incorporate a holy aspect to the building. The wooden carvings covering the window and roof contrast really well with the walls and once again allude to nature. The height of the building at 12 meters is made to emphasize the roof that is segmented into 6 parts, representing the 6 realms of heaven in Islam. The distance between the ground and the roof above points to heaven. The Court of Lions is another very renowned courtyard in the Alhambra, and perhaps all of Spain. A floored courtyard with a fountain and water traveling across the tiles. Its main focus is the fountain, circled by 8 lions spouting water. Animals are scarcely depicted in the Alhambra, but the lions have a clear meaning. Other than alluding to the natural world, like many aspects of the Alhambra, they also use pathos to appeal to emotion. The lion characteristically, a very strong and brave beast. Depicting it shows the guests and patrons of the Alhambra that the emirate is strong. This gives the courtyard a very stern tone that's countered by the quaintness of the nature surrounding it. The use of water is very apparent with the fountain and the segmented flooring. This too brings the image of heaven from the Quran, an infinite garden segmented into 4 parts by rivers and a central lake. Surrounding the courtyard, the pointed arches are very significant. They show a shift in Islamic art. Rather than the round horseshoe arches common in Toledo, Seville, and Cordoba, these arches are common in early modern Islamic structures from 1500 onward, unlike the very medieval horseshoe arches from the early years of Al-Andalus. On the eastern side of the Court of Lions, you enter the Hall of Kings. One glimpse above at the domed roof will leave you starstruck. Instead of a floral or geometric sequence, you see a very Gothic-like depiction of the first 10 kings of the Nasrid dynasty. This motif is very different from the rest of the Alhambra, but stands as a stunning example of cultural cohabitation. The picture is paradoxical, more like something you'd find in a church than any Islamic building. It's not known why an exception was made for this room to depict humans unlike every other. But it goes to show how much diversity and Christian influence existed even in Islamic Spain. The central figure in green is King Muhammad ibn Nasr, the one who established the Nasrid dynasty. His larger size and more elaborate clothing makes him the focal point and the most important person in the painting. The Alhambra is an integral part of Spain's history and its Islamic legacy. That's so omnipresent in modern Spain, it's still unacknowledged or overlooked. Spain derives much of its national pride from its Catholic faith and European culture. They even look down on their Islamic history. Instead, many view Al-Andalus as a shameful period of foreign occupation, rather than the culturally enlightened, tolerant period it was. Islamic rule in Spain shielded the country from the superstitious dark ages plaguing the rest of Europe, and allowed for many technological, cultural, scientific, and literary innovations. The avoidance of Spain's Islamic legacy is very apparent in Spain's politics. Like much of Europe, right-wing nationalist parties in Spain are seeing a revival. Anti-immigration rhetoric brims every election cycle. Muslim refugees fleeing war-torn nations are expelled at Spain's border with Morocco in Ceuta and Melilla. The Alhambra is an unmistakably Arab and Islamic building. That its very existence in Spain contradicts the talking points spouted by hateful right-wing groups. Thankfully, though, Spain is more open-minded today than it ever was, and most analysts point to that trend increasing in the future. Islamic history in Spain is slowly gaining more acceptance and taught in schools as a glorious period in Spanish history rather than a shameful one. The Alhambra is one of Spain's cultural treasures and is ought to be cherished, preserved, and appreciated. Spain's history is so long, vibrant, and rich with contrasts and cultural exchange, with its highs and lows. But without them, Spain wouldn't be what it is today. From the Roman invasions in 200 BC to the colonial period, Spain's imprint on the world has only grew larger, and the echoes of Islamic culture are instrumental to modern Spain. The figures, motifs, patterns, and architecture in the Alhambra stand today as proof of that. Thanks for listening.